Juneteenth is a celebration of when black and white Republicans came down and freed black Southern slaves from the Democrat Party slave masters. And the Democratic Party, again, is trying to hijack and lie and deflect. The Democratic Party celebrating Juneteenth is like a Nazi celebrating Hanukkah. And then they have after all of these Union troops died, freeing them, they have the nerve to ask for reparations.
God bless my black soul. Go ahead and put the mayor up. You know what, Mayor? I'm telling you, I want to throw some stuff. And it just had to be a black face. Our color, but definitely not our kind. First of all, the way he's even framing what happened during the Civil War is wrong. Union soldiers dying on behalf. This was not, black people fought harder than anybody to be free. And they were fighting generation after generation long before we had a civil war in the United States of America. Let's underline, bold that, underscore that right there. And Union soldiers, black people. I mean, man, I just don't understand. And for him to, the only true thing he said in that entire segment was that the Democrats were, in fact, at that time, the party of white supremacy. That was the only thing that he had, that he got right. Everything else that he said in that segment is absolutely wrong. And for people like him and others like Candace Owens that have always has something to say about the celebration of Juneteenth, I just don't understand where this self-hate is coming from.
This brother is, that's a disgusting take, and I think it's a way for corporations to say the N-word without saying the N-word or without catching any flack. They just put a black face that's willing to disrespect our entire race, the suffering of our ancestors in this manner is absolutely disgusting. There's nothing about Juneteenth relatable to a Nazi supporting Hanukkah at all. The disgusting depiction in that is completely baseless. I'll tell you what's ridiculous. Beyond that Clarence Thomas book that he probably ain't even opened on his bookshelf behind his head, is the idea that he think he can trick us into believing that we are not deserving of reparations. This idea, he says, if you want reparations, to ask for reparations after you freed us. You didn't free us, we freed ourselves. People pretend when you say things like this, you are acting as if we didn't fight every day. If there wasn't a protest, black people worked slower, they slowed up crops, they broke tools. We protested slavery every day, and people don't even understand. We protested what days we were gonna get our large sum of food so we can have Sunday dinner. People don't, just because you didn't learn about it, brother, and I hesitantly call you brother, just because you didn't learn about it or you try to forget it, don't mean it didn't happen. We were protesting an institution, that peculiar institution, since they brought us here. Some of us even jumped, mostly sisters jumped off boats into waters, death waters, so that their kids would never have to suffer through it. So this idea that was passively enjoying our times on plantation needs to die, because it's a model that came along with that lost cause argument. Black people were never comfortable with being in.
Never. That's it, never comfortable. I mean, you talk about, I mean, they would sabotage, I mean, the way it was direct and indirect resistance to the cruelty, to the dehumanization, to the chattel slavery for generation after generation. And you're right, black from the beginning, trying to jump the ships. That's why they had them chained together so they couldn't jump the ship, refusing to eat. All of those were examples of resistance, and we can give many more examples. Even mothers, Mayor, and you mentioned, killed their own babies, infanticide, because they didn't want their children. Imagine what that takes, because they didn't want their children to grow up enslaved. And you want to talk about the Civil War was just the climax of it all. Our ancestors have been fighting from the beginning of this tragic stain on America. And you know what? Black folks are owed reparations. People like him act like it's a giveaway. No, it's old. Because this country would not have been able to become a hegemonic nation without that forced free labor. That's it and that's all. And this clown, because that is exactly what he is. I mean, he's a clown. Here's some photos of actual Juneteenth celebrations. It really pains some people that black people, even through all we've been through and all we still going through right now, can find some joy. I mean, that pains people. You know what, Mary? That's one of my favorite games right there. I play Uno on a regular basis with a dear friend of mine. I beat them all the time. But here's some other photos. I had to digress on that. Some other photos of people just really enjoying themselves. So yeah, it just pains them to see black joy. That's what this comes down to for me.
If people thought about what it means to be black in America, on the only statement that can sum up who we are and how great of a soul and will we have, it's but God. Because if you think about it, I mean, it wasn't until the 60s that we had what looks like full access to American idea. And look how far we've come in that short period of time. If you take 1960 and subtract it from 2023 and think about what America was doing at the time, they didn't even have running water. So the idea that black people have taken this little bit of time and made this many gains against the system that's still killing us actively. We just heard about sisters in childbirth. We know what happens in our schools and how they defund us or not fund us properly. We see what happens with the policing and over policing of our bodies. So this idea that we still show up and stand up with our heads straight is an amazing task that black people carry on every day. This brother almost made me say, I hate him. And that is a strong statement, but Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, it's really, it's tragic.